Okay, so an early look at this week's comics. Perks have been on holiday, so we, it's not a big pile, but I am going to be doing some other videos as well later on today. So it's only a small little pile. So I'm going to start with two comics that I've been wanting to get in my local comic shop. I've not seen them in this, but one of the shops what I go to, they have them in, so I picked them up on back issues. So I've got Gatchaman 1 and 2. Now, I'm not a big fan of stuff like Thundercats, He-Man, G.I. Joe, Transformers. They came when I was having other interests. I was a teenager then. But one that I did love when I was about 12, I think it was, 11 to 12, was Gatchaman, or as it was called back then, Battle of the Planets, with Reaper Cheap. Reaper Cheap. So when I saw these, I had to pick these up. I've actually got the Ken special coming as well. So it's written by Cullen Bunn, who's seems to write every other comic what's currently published today, and it's got really nice art by Chris Batista. I can't remember what he used to do, but he did something for Marvel or DC. If you remember, do let me know. I initially thought these covers were by Alex Ross, but they're not. They are done by Inaka Miranda. Really nice covers. Got nice back covers as well. And it's caught the spirit of the cartoon perfectly. Especially, I think it's leaning more heavily towards the original Japanese version of Battle of the Planets or Gatchaman. So these were my TV superheroes when I was growing up. Basically, it's kind of like superheroes meets Thunderbirds. They've all got different powers, and it's just good. It's good fun. Cullen Bunn has really caught the spirit of the comic. This is my retro treat to myself. It's published by Mad Cave, so I'm getting this from Mad Cave, and I'm also getting Dick Tracy, as I showed in the last one. And I'm so impressed with how they are doing these licensed properties. The paper is really, really high quality. The colours really pop in the comics as well. They've got good artists, good writers. Very impressed. If you're a fan of Gatchaman or a fan of Japanese anime, I recommend picking these up. They are $4.99, but it's an independent comic, so I will forgive them for charging a little bit extra. But like I said, there's no dip in quality. The artwork's great. The story's got a great flavour. Really captures the spirit of Gatchaman. And yeah, I'm so impressed. Chris Batista is a very solid artist. He's good at doing people. He's good at doing backgrounds. This is what I did like. There's backgrounds in the comics. Yes. So it's not relying on the colorist to do the heavy work. The regular comic artist is doing a lot of the work as well, which it makes a refreshing change. So I would give, the story's not going to win any awards, far from it, but for me, for a nostalgia boost, I'm giving this 8 out of 10. Just for my, it just tweaked the little pleasure button on me. That sounds a bit dodgy, doesn't it? So let's see, what should we do now? Okay, we'll move on to the sister title of the new EC comic, Epitaphs from the Abyss. This is the science fiction one, Cruel Universe. Gorgeous cover again. Again, cardstock cover, and again, very, very thick paper. And also again, Richard Starkins doing the lettering in the classic old EC type, which is a nice tip of the hat to the EC. So it's published by Oni. They've got the rights to doing this new range of EC comics. I know Epitaphs from the Abyss has now become a 12-issue maxi. Fingers crossed it carries on being a continuing one. Like that one, it's got 4 stories. I think there's about 40 pages or something, or about 34 story pages in total. And it's got writers such as Matt Kint, Karina Betcho, Chris Condon, and Ben H. Winters. And the artist is Kano, Caitlin Yarsky, Jonathan Case, and Archam Toplin. I know Rockin' Robbie, I normally agree with a lot of what he says, but on his review of this, he said he'd love for them to have like all these big name artists and all. I'm thinking, hold on a minute. When EC was around, they had the artists who were doing magazines at the time. They weren't these big, wonderful, hyper names, what they are now. Their legacy became bigger after they did EC. So I like how they're using a mix of established artists and ones who are newer artists. I think it's a good mix-up because that's the spirit of EC, not having the biggest name possible, and they've got solid writers, and I like the art in this. I think it's really good colouring, good art all the way through. And like the horror comic, each story has a good sting in the tail. For me, it's like sci-fi meets the Twilight Zone. It's the Twilight Zone's version of sci-fi where it doesn't always end happily. In fact, 9 out of 10 times it doesn't end happily. Have I got a favourite story? I think my least favourite one is this one, Solo Shift by Karina Betshow and Caitlin Yarsky. I think this is the only one that did look a bit odd in the comic. The artwork I found a bit jarring. It's not bad by any means, but it feels more like a YA kind of graphic novel kind of artist. And it kind of jarred with the story itself. Or maybe that was the idea, I don't know. But the others really solid. Really enjoyed the Matt Kint one. That had very much of a Twilight Zone flavour to it. And Chris Condon never disappoints. And I think the one that I enjoyed the most for the sting in the tail was the last story by Ben H. Winters and art by Archie Toplin. It was a very nasty little tale, and it had a great twist at the end. So yeah, again, 8.5 out of 10. Really enjoying this, and yeah, I'm invested with EC for all their titles that they're bringing out. So from there, we shall move to Image. Like I said, there's not many, so I've only got one image this week, and it is Ain't No Grave by Scotty Young writing in this instance, you'll know what I mean, said that in a minute. Art by Jorge Corona, and colouring by Jean-Francois Ballou, and lettering and design by Nate Pecos. This, I'm just buying for the arts more than anything. The artwork is just beautiful. And it has to be beautiful because the artwork is what carries the story this time. There's only one word bubble in the whole of the comic. And I didn't miss there being no dialogue at all. The pictures guided you through the story. It's a very light, it's not a breezy read, but it is a very light read. But I just took the time of it. It meant that I could focus on the art more than normal. I think sometimes with a comic, you can get wrapped up in the story and you kind of like shift from panel to panel without soaking in the art. So this allowed me to just take the time and savour Jorge's amazing, beautiful artwork. Yeah, I'm loving it. Would I enjoy this as a full ongoing? I'm not sure. I think 5 issues might be enough. I'd happily read another, if they did like another book set in the same universe, happily read that. But yeah, 9 out of 10. Beautiful, beautiful comic. So that's it for Image, which is unusual for me. There was meant to be the Power Fantasy, but they've all been delayed for the UK. So hopefully that should come next week. That's the new one. Oh, so I've just noticed my cover's all wavy. So it looks like I've got a naff cover. Anyway, yeah, that should be coming next week. That's the one by, I've forgotten, Casper Wingard and Kieran Gillen. That's it. So Absolute Power number 2 with a very wonky cover. I've either got this stamp somehow or it arrived like that. So this is issue number 2 of Absolute Power by Mark Waid, Dan Mora, letters by Ariana Maher, and colours by Alejandro Sanchez. And this is the most beautiful comic of the week. I don't know what Dan Moore's eating for his breakfast, but keep on eating it because he's smashing out of the park. I mean, he's doing this and he's got about another 3 comics on the go at once. Some that are coming out, like the new Justice League Unlimited, which will be out in November, I think. The detail in his artwork is amazing. What I love about this, to compare it to, say, another recent event, say, for example, Bloodlines, this is on issue 2. There's been more movements in these 2 issues than there was in the whole of Blood Hunt. Blood Hunt was fight, some big dramatic speeches which just jarred. and then not really finishing, just moving on to the next miniseries. So that left me very disappointed, but it had beautiful artwork. This has beautiful dynamic artwork with amazing dialogue. It's just great dialogue. It's great plotting. The pacing is perfect. I guess it shows that Mark Waid can write a plot in his sleep. He could write a comic with his eyes closed and it'd still be great. It'd still be head and shoulders above a lot of other superhero comics. This is good, solid superhero action comic. The action flows, but there's beats where they take a bit of a rest and they talk about the characters and the developments and stuff. And it's just masterful. It's just really good. I've not been so invested in an advanced comic in a long time. I can't remember when the last time was, and it's just 4 issues. Perfect. So yeah, really happy with this, really invested, 9 out of 10. Then we move on to The Boy Wonder. I know Geekyo Hog said this was very middle of the road. I'm loving it. Forget like the DC comic, forget that you're reading about Damien, and just soak in the oddball art, beautiful colouring, and the very unique storytelling method. I love how they have this ongoing joke now with this kidnapper and his kidnappee, who's basically just telling the lineage and story of Damien, done in like this fairy tale style, which it's just a unique way of telling it. It gives you an insight into Damien's personality much more than if you did it in a much more conservative, standard way of doing a Robin comic. And this fleshes out the relationship. It's with Damien. It focuses so much normally on with Robin on his relationship with Batman and Bruce Wayne. This fleshes out his relationship with his mum and his granddad, so Ra's al Ghul and Thalia. And I love it. The artwork flows at such a kinetic space. His use of blacks, of solid black like that, is just brilliant. What it gives me a feel of is not reading a comic. It's like it's got the same feel I get when I used to watch Samurai Jack years ago. It's that same kinetic, stylized energy, and it's brilliant. There's nothing on the stands like it at the moment. It feels more like reading something like The Goon or another stylized comic like that, where it's hyper action, hyper mood, and it's great for it. Loving it. 9 out of 10. So next will be the big conclusion where the Demon Ra's al Ghul meets the Batman. I think Rocky Robbie said this was the last one. It's not. It finishes with 5 issues, so one more to go. 9 out of 10. Really love it. This one, Birds of Prey, number 12. We're still leaping about from universe to universe. For a refreshing change, it's not universes of DC, so it's not like Captain Carrot and things like that. It's actually universes where it changes who they are. It's their dream universes, whatever they're imagining. That's the universe they land into. So this one, they land into like this cartoon world, and I did not enjoy this. I'm sure it's good, but the art just pulled me so much out of it. I don't do kawaii, is that what they say? That cutie cartoon style artwork. So I'll tell you what, X-Babies, you've got a lot to answer for. You started all this. So it pulled me out of the story big time. It's 22 pages, and it was a struggle to read. It's been my least favourite issue of the Birds of Prey, so I would give this 5 out of 10. But I know it's just a blip, and next issue will be back on track. But yeah, not much else to say. It's still that continuing leap from universe to universe. I think it's going to be concluded next issue. I'm not sure. I could be wrong. And yeah, just felt a bit dissatisfied with that one. And last, but by no means least, I wanted to leave this one to the end. Can you tell? It's a Marvel comic. It's a number 1. It's Uncanny X-Men by Gail Simone, David Marquez, and is it Matt Wilson on colours? I hate Marvel for this. I know I bash Marvel a lot, but I do hate how it's bloody impossible to find creator credits nowadays. Marvel's not the only one that does this. Other companies do it as well. Here we go. Gail Simone writing, David Marquez, artist, colour artist Matt Wilson, and letter of VC's Clayton Cowles. So I tweeted on tweeted, you don't tweet on Threads, I threaded on Threads that the art felt a bit off to me. It still does it in a way. I feel like the colouring is doing too much. It's nice, don't get me wrong, but the colouring sometimes covers up too much of the ink, too much of the line work, and so for me it detracted a little bit from the art. But I've looked through it again and it's growing on me. But I hope next issue he's not as heavy with his colouring. It's this colour moulding kind of thing, what Marvel do a lot, and I'm not a fan of it. I think it is swamping David Marquez's art a little bit, to be honest. But saying that, the art's still beautiful. It really is good. It just felt a bit off. I think it gave me the same kind of feeling what a lot of people get from Birds of Prey with the colourist on that, which I kind of like for some weird reason. This gave me that same feeling. So I feel your pain now. But it's fun. For one thing, it's got my 4 favourite X-Men. It's got Rogue, it's got Gambit, it's got Wolverine, and it's got my favourite X-Men of all time, Nightcrawler. I don't want to say much of the plot. You need to read it for yourself. This is the best of the relaunches because you don't feel lost. With the X-Men, the one by Jim McKay, that was my least favourite because it just felt lost. I've not bothered with NYX. I've heard too much about it. Like, no, it's not for me. I'm a grown-ass person. I don't need to read a teenage book. But this is the X-Men I've wanted. Very much, it's like... I love Chris Claremont. I love his X-Men run. But he is a crap writer. What I liked about him, he was a brilliant ideas man. He was brilliant at doing plots. But for the love of God, Chris, take away about half your paragraphs on a page. He could not stop himself. Tom King could be guilty of this, putting too much dialogue in, explaining what somebody's doing. You can see what the person's doing. Whereas Gail Simone, she streamlines the dialogue and makes it so natural and flowing. So it's got the heart and the soul of what Chris Claremont, like I said, who I did love. I don't know how, but he never bothered me when I was younger. But now I struggle to read his comics. So it's like a more accessible Chris Claremont. The dialogue is so easy and fun. She does a brilliant relationship between Rogue, Gambit, and Wolverine. I love their dynamic. It's good, really cool throuple. And it sets the stage for a new twist. It looks like there's going to be some new characters that are going to be introduced next issue, and I'm all for it. Really, really enjoyable. I'm smiling. I'm smiling because I finally got me X-Men back. I'm happy because it means I'm not bashing a Marvel comic for a change. And I had the same feeling with X-Force last week, and I think X Factor's out next week, and that's by Mark Russell. So I could end up buying 4 regular comics from Marvel, which is the most I've had in a long time. Because I stopped all the Ultimates. Might get them in book form eventually, but I'm just really happy to get the X-Men back. The only gripe I've got is the price points, because the Gail Simone one and Jed McKay ones, the standard size comics, are going to be $4.99. X-Force and X Factor, $3.99 each. It's Marvel, isn't it? It's bad when you got to say that. You just, it's Marvel. It's not good enough, Marvel. Think about your fans. We're not made of money. You are, because you're taking all the money. But apart from that, I am going to give this 10 out of 10. Let that just sink in. I'm giving a Marvel comic 10 out of 10. This is my comic of the week. It also gets my cover of the week. I love that cover. You know who all the characters... Why I love this cover, it's just the hands, but you know who the characters are just by looking at the hands. So you've got Gambit. Ooh, hold on a minute. Okay, so you've got Gambit, Nightcrawler, Wolverine, Rogue. Is that Jubilee? I never noticed that before. I'm such a fucking stupid idiot. But yeah, I love the cover anyway. So yeah, buy this comic. If you're going to get one X-Men comic, I'd say get this. If you're going to get 2 X-Men comics, I'd say get this and get X-Force. If you're going to get 3, because I'm sure it's going to be great, get X-Factor, Uncanny X-Men, X-Force. If you're going to get 4, try X-Men. But it's not my favourite. Hopefully it improves. I just think John McKay's spread himself too thin at the moment. So yeah, pleased about that. So there we go. That's my comics of the week, and I hope you enjoyed it. Bye. 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 Bye.